Blog Talk Radio. Blog Talk Radio.
Well, hello and a very good afternoon to you. Welcome to today's episode of Xandermonium, the talk show that gets you talking. I'm your host, Xander Gibb, and on today's show, joining me are my guests, the lovely Dr. Katie Livesey, who is a neuropsychologist, professor, and writer for the flipcollective.com, and Dr. Jake Pentland of the Pentland Institute, who is a radio and TV personality, producer, writer, director, and all-round international sex kitten and balding fat ass. I can say those little bits at the end because we are friends, but you try saying it and you're dead meat, okay? We're going to be discussing the psychology of love and sexuality. All this for your education and entertainment, more to come in a mere moment. Now, if you want to interact with us during the show, because we're really high-tech here, you can talk to us in the chat room at the bottom of the page, and you can also interact with us on Twitter. My Twitter handle, if you like, is at XanderGibb, XanderGibb. That's XanderGibb. And you can tweet Dr. Katie on at KAYTLEV. That's KAYTLEV. And Jake Pentland is at Jake Pentland, capital J, capital P, JAKEPENTLAND. So there's no phone-in during this section of the show because it's pre-recorded. But don't forget, we'll be live for the very last section of the show, which is always dedicated every week now to What's Your Beef? Call in and tell us who's pissing you off. Is it me? Is it Jake? Whoever it is, call us and tell us on 347-884-9061. That's 347-884-9061. Talking of Jake Pentland, don't forget to check out his show, Saturdays, 1 p.m. PST or 4 p.m. EST, with Jake, Jen, Eli, Susie, and all of the crazy cult of Jake people. And you can also check out his website, which is jakepentland.com, jakepentland.com. Don't forget to check out his sisters, Brandy and Jenny, for their fabulous show, Time Out Seat. I'm not sure when that's going to be on again next, but check their Twitter page for details, and that's at Time Out Seat on Twitter. Also, you can check out the Robin Trav Show, Tuesdays, 8 p.m. EST, 5 p.m. PST, on grindhouseradio.com. I'm sure I will see you there from time to time. Well, one of my guests is here already, so I'll start doing the introductions, and maybe I can start talking to him while we wait for our other guest. So my guests today are, as I said, Dr. Katie Livesey, who is a neuropsychologist, professor, and writer for the flipcollective.com. Now, I actually first heard Katie on Jake's show and was so impressed with her knowledge, an empathetic and humanistic approach to issues, whilst keeping a balance in order with her response, which is no easy task, I assure you. So today, myself, Katie, and Jake Pentland are going to be talking about the psychology of love and sexuality. And we're going to try and dispel some of the myths that surround this complex issue and look at what love and sexuality are in terms of what happens in your brain and the processes. So let's go to the... Nope. Okay, let's bring Jake on. Hi, Jake.
Hey, Xander.
I was just waiting for Katie. I don't know how much of you wrong teeth today. I don't know how much you heard of the show today, but we're going to be talking about the psychology of love and sexuality, and we're going to kind of get an idea from Katie what actually happens in the brain with regards to these things. Now, I know that's something that's of particular interest to you too.
Absolutely. The brain chemistry is sort of something I talk about all the time on my show, although I do it in a more subtle way because I don't want to bore people. Not that you're going to bore people, don't take that the wrong way. I just mean sometimes when you start talking scientific, people tend to trail off. But I'm actually of the, say, odd side on this issue because I don't really believe in brain chemistry having any effect on people whatsoever. No, and that's why I was so excited when you and Katie were going to do this. That's why I wanted to call in, because Katie and I have had long arguments and fights over this for years we've known each other, because, that's what she does. She's in a lab, and, she's a doctor, and, she definitely believes in this theory a lot more than I do. So I'm just here to pretty much piss her off and tell her that she wasted 20 years in education. Which is what I usually do.
To piss people off, Jake. I mean, you're usually just so congenial and agreeable. So,
Katie I'm sorry, go ahead.
Go ahead. No, I was just going to say, tell me a little bit more why you don't think it's a psychological or a chemical process. What makes you think that it's not?
Well, do you want me to ruin that? Because that's what the show's going to be about. I don't want to destroy you and Katie already.
So I thought we could just chew the fat a little, not mine, of course.
No, I don't have the jaw strength for that. Here's the deal. Katie, okay, my history with Katie goes back a few years, and what Katie does is, I don't know, she's a doctor, so everyone's already going to assume she's smarter than me, and, spoiler alert, she is, in most ways. But what her whole foundation is, studying the brain chemistry and its reactions to medications and what happens when someone's depressed. I don't know what the fuck she is. She's a psychologist who studies.
She's a neuropsychologist.
Neuropsychologist, thank you. Okay. So I've always had a problem with those people because I find that it's like, this is going to get crazy. Are you familiar with quantum mechanic theory at all?
No.
Okay, well, I won't get into it too much because I'm not really familiar, but I did find there's this one thing that happens when they study like a subatomic level molecule or whatever. I'm not a scientist. They have found this one that once they start to try and study it, whatever study they're trying to apply to it, the molecule itself will actually change. The atom will change. It's mind-blowing, and I don't know if it's quacky theory or not, but whether right or wrong, that sort of concept applies here. And here's the issue: when somebody starts investigating brain chemistry and dopamines and the run of emotions, like that you're going to talk about today about love or whatever, to me, you're changing it by studying. And here's a better term: you're dissecting to understand an animal.
Right.
And I think once you dissect and take apart and you look at a very small scale portion of it, you're missing the entire point. Basically, to answer you in one sentence, when you fall in love, you fall in love. And then there's a chemical reaction afterwards. It's not the other way around. That's my theory.
Really?
Yeah.
Well, I mean, for me, the reason why this interests me so much from the perspective of being a gay person, I'm not looking to explain away my homosexuality because I'm totally comfortable with it. But what actually really interests me is, there's actually a school of thought that you're born gay, and some people believe that it's environmental. I was raised by heterosexual people, but it didn't make me straight. So that kind of defeats that argument. But I have a kind of a thought process for me that when your brain is developing, that your brain will develop one way. For instance, like if I show you a picture of a hot naked girl, that's going to incite some kind of reaction for you, but it's not going to do that for me because that doesn't trigger my neurons or whatever the scientific thing. But what makes that imagery trigger something for you but not for me? Do you see what I'm saying? There has to be some difference even deeper than the fact that, I'm a raging homo and you're a pussy fiend. There has to be something a lot deeper than that for me, really.
I mean, I rambled earlier, but really, yeah, there are differences. There are biochemical differences, of course, but to me, it doesn't rule out environment at all. Like, for instance, if you were to make the argument that homosexuality is caused by environment, then let's say that's true. Just bear with me for a second. then your brain chemistry is, of course, because you're a homosexual, because you were made a homosexual for however that happens. Over the years, of course, seeing a naked woman is not going to incite your brain to respond the same way mine would. So it still doesn't rule. I guess this is my problem. People always are studying the brain and chemistry, and people like fucking Dr. Katie, and it's like they're wanting to find answers in genetics and brain chemistry. And I mean, I wanted to be a genetic engineer outside of high school. That's what I was going to major in college. I get it. You're looking for answers. You think this is like the end of the rainbow. You're going to get there. There's the pot of gold. And I'm so far advanced because I'm smarter than most people. I'm telling you already that nothing's going to change. You're not going to find anything different.
It's not that I'm not looking for change, because I'm not looking to validate why I am who I am. Just the process of it all kind of interests me, because whatever the reason is for me being a cock fiend and you being a pussy fiend, it ain't going to change it. But I just think that that actually knowing about things is an interesting an interesting perspective to be able to know a bit more about why your brain works the way that it does.
I won't shit
in
all
response
over
to that. No, it's cool. I mean, obviously, all perspectives are relevant, but this is not going to change it for me in any way, shape, or form. I just think that it's an interesting part of it to kind of know a bit more about why it does what it does. Because I'm not going to come away from this, hunting for pussy on the streets of New York, but I like when I was growing up, I was kind of involved in the church and stuff, and the kind of church that I was involved in taught that homosexuality was wrong. So the religiosity of it really kind of made me think that it was wrong to be gay, and I was involved in this kind of like ex-gay ministries, and basically they tried to reprogram me. And, they didn't tie me to a chair and show me, straight porn or anything like that, but what they didn't work. I mean, because I was gay. I am gay. I'm fundamentally gay, and I will always be. Oh, Katie is here now. Let me just bring Katie
how nice of Katie to show up.
Don't let me interrupt.
Good afternoon, Katie.
I almost hung up when I heard religiosity, I have to admit.
You what, sorry?
Nothing. Hi.
It was me that said religiosity, not Jake.
Whatever. I'm afraid regardless.
No, I was just
regardless of the source.
I was just saying that basically, when I was growing up, I was involved in an evangelical church, and they were kind of teaching that homosexuality was wrong, and so I was involved in this kind of like ex-gay ministry where they kind of try and reprogram your brain to make you straight, but. No one involved in the program was kind of, although they were butching it up, and no. I'm still the biggest cock fiend in the United States. It didn't work at all.
Sword swallower.
Well,
she knows me.
No, I'm quoting Game of Thrones. I don't know you.
So just before we kind of get into all, we were explaining that you're a neuropsychologist. Can you explain for the dummies out there, and Jake and I, what that actually means?
First, can I say hi to my friend Katie?
Hi, Jake.
No, you can't.
I
miss you too.
You're getting
Jenna,
way too big. I'm never going to be able to talk to you again.
We keep bumping Katie on our shows. Well, actually, I shouldn't say we. It's all Jen.
Yeah, I believe it.
Jen needs to be. I mean, you guys are getting some. I told her, just book me if you have nothing else. You guys are landing some major people.
It'll slow down once they start.
From what I understand, I don't know any of these people you're landing, but
exactly.
Once he actually starts talking to them on the show, they'll be gone for good. Believe me.
All right, enough about me. This is Xander's show. As much as I love to talk about myself.
Hey,
but anyway, hello.
It's all good. It's all good.
Yeah, so
she probably knows you as well
late.
as anybody else. So tell us a little bit about what neuropsychology is, and how do the processes in neuropsychology relate to the way we behave.
Oh my goodness, this is a serious interview.
No. This is just kind of like the preamble. Really, we're gonna get silly and talk about breasts and penises and how they affect us. Very.
Can you say penis again, Xander, please, for me? Just
penis.
Okay, thank you.
We should play a drinking game, Katie. Every time I say anyone says penis, we have to take a shot of Jack or something.
Shot of Jack.
Yeah.
All right, I'll stop.
Jack Daniels, I'm talking about.
Oh, okay. Who is
you
Jack
are
Xander?
Disgusting.
Oh, sorry, I forgot the question.
Right. What is neuropsychology, and how does it relate to the processes of the way we behave? Gosh.
So neuropsychologists like to think of themselves as sort of better than regular clinical psychologists, but that's basically what we are. We're trained as clinical psychologists. We specialize in neuro, which means really focusing on the brain-behavior relationship. So how our behavior, what we think, what we do, how we feel, our emotions, memory, attention, a lot of the cognitive aspects, how that relates to brain functioning. So we primarily work with neurologists and patient populations that have had some sort of assault to the brain, stroke, dementia, tumors, head injury, etc. But that doesn't mean we don't see psychiatric disorders, because we fundamentally believe most psychiatric disorders have a neurological base.
And that's why I was shitting on you before you called in.
You have to listen back to the show. The things he said about you should never talk to him again.
She knows. I've said it to her so many times. She knows.
Yeah, and you have to understand where that's coming from in Jake. So it's this fundamental defiance against sort of academia, right? Ivory towers, formal education.
What do you think of that?
It also means he cares about you, too, because he only attacks people that he cares about, so, you know.
Oh, Katie knows that. Wait, are you saying because what are you implying here, Katie, because I'm a college dropout?
No, I think you have sort of a knee-jerk reaction to formal education, because, yes, you have a sense, I assume, that you're not taken seriously enough because you don't have a formal education, which is bullshit. We've talked about that.
Yeah, and that is true.
Some of the smartest people I know with the most degrees I know are some of the dumbest people I know.
Yeah,
so that's
I think that is my issue. Yes,
so I sometimes think there's this knee-jerk reaction against science, against sort of a neurological explanation of behavior, because there's flaws, and because people in our field aren't really good at admitting or recognizing that there are flaws in our methodology, there are flaws in our interpretation, but that doesn't mean you throw the baby out with the sink.
Right.
So wait, I mixed my metaphor there, didn't I?
No, it worked.
So is all neuropsychology, is it all experimental?
My metaphors. I'm sorry, I just stumbled upon one of my greatest weaknesses.
I'm sorry.
Is mixing metaphors now, my fault.
I was just asking if
What's
neuropsychology
the right metaphor?
is
That's
all
more important.
Baby out with the bathwater is the
bathwater.
problem.
Okay, thank you. Sorry, go ahead, Xander. I'm just regretting this three-way conversation already.
It's
within
fine.
5 minutes.
I'm a professional radio talk show host, so I can cope with this. So is all neuropsychology experimental? Because obviously it's seen as a new field, a newish field, isn't it? It's not kind of, you know.
It's about 20 to 30 years, so I guess that's newish in the scientific world. But yes, we like to think of ourselves as primarily empirically based, so evidence-based, experimentally based.
Right. So when does
did you guys see the news on the DSM and NIMH?
No, what
Jake,
happened?
this should make you really happy. So NIMH, I don't mean to be tangential, but NIMH, which is the National Institute of Mental Health, which is one of our obvious biggies.
Yeah, my mom's on their board.
Is she really?
No, I'm kidding. Of course not. No. Well, she's on their bulletin board for, like, you know, the top, like when the FBI tracks the...
On the wanted list.
FBI family. Yeah, exactly.
On a watch list. Go on, sorry.
I'm sorry. But yes, the NIMH,
the National Institute of Mental Health provides lots of, obviously, federal funding for scientific research in the mental health field. Just withdrew its support of the DSM-5, so the newest edition of the DSM, or the Diagnostic Statistical Manual, which psychologists seem to be very proud of. Just said it's basically...
They rejected the entire manual?
They basically said we're not going to support research that's based on DSM-5. solely. I mean,
and what are the implications of that?
Huge. So it's a huge slap in the face of sort of what psychologists have referred to as the Bible of how we categorize mental illness.
Wow.
And what was their reasoning?
That it lacks complete validity. I mean, it's big. Its big pro is that it's been reliable. It's been a way for psychologists to classify mental illness and mental disorders in a reliable way. So we're all using the same sort of criteria and talking about the same thing, but it's completely symptom-based. Their argument is that it's not valid. So you understand the difference between validity and reliability?
Right.
I do not, but I conceptually do. But
so valid means it's measuring what it's supposed to measure. It's saying, what we're talking about is a real entity. It has functional consequences, and so it's basically saying it's bullshit.
Right.
But doesn't it rely a lot on generalization?
Yes, absolutely. I mean, a lot of science does, but it's very symptom-based. Right. There's no good biomarkers. There's no genetic markers like you think of medical kind of classification syndromes. The mental health community has really fallen behind in being able to do that.
Wow.
That's great news.
It's huge.
So this means that the NIMH is looking more for empirical study, to use your word.
Yes, and the DSM will say it's empirically validated to a degree, but it's not. At the end of the day, you're talking about what people are complaining about or people's symptoms, and there's a problem with self-report, and there's a problem with basing much of it on clinical observation, and so it's a biggie. Anyway, I didn't mean to derail
that's good news.
I thought Jake would like that.
No, it's
because of the Jake Kellen show.
And
that's why.
It's really.
I mean, really, I've been fighting this, and I look at the world is changing because of me.
It is, but the problem is so they're sort of. What they want to go with is obviously a much more biologically based, genetically based, biomarker-based system, which just isn't there yet. I mean, we're studying the brain with the best tools we know how, but it's still basically like, we're cavemen with rocks trying to pound on this, trying to understand it.
Right.
It's not there.
Right.
It's just not there.
So I've been vindicated. This is like a holiday for me. I mean, seriously, I was saying
it's just Jake Pentland Day in history.
Let's make this
for you.
It is. Look it up. It's like a big.
Just stroke my ego for like 10 seconds. I've been fighting this for years, people.
You have.
So
you have.
I feel like I tell people, I'm always right. I never lose. And here's another.
It's just a matter
example.
of time for everybody to come on board.
That's the problem. I hate being so smart that I see everything too far ahead.
Yeah.
Well, anyway, enough about me. Back to you, Xander.
It's a burden you will always have to carry.
I know.
Yeah, it is. It's
tell
tough.
me, where does this process start for us in the brain? Where does the actual will start to come together to determine the type of person we will be or how we will behave? I mean, I know some of it is external, but just the clinical process of how our brain is formed. Where does that start? Is it in vitro, or does it continue as we grow, or where does it come from?
This question's for me.
Yes to all of the above.
Exactly. All of the above.
Right.
So.
Well, sometimes
I could answer
Xander,
that in a really succinct fashion, Xander, I would have a Nobel Prize right now. And that's the inherent problem in everything we'll talk about today and everything we'll continue to argue, is that there's such a confluence of factors why we are who we are. Certainly there are biological, genetic, in vitro, intrauterine influences, environmental influences that we now know can absolutely affect not only the function of our brain but the structure of our brain. So neuroplasticity, if we're exposed to certain environments throughout our lives, or for example, stress can literally change the structure of the brain. So the bottom line is a big mess. We don't know.
So the actual makeup of the brain can be changed by the things that we experience.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. So you put a rat. You put a rat in a closet or what we call a stimulus-deprived environment, you will see brain changes. Their brain cells become much less elaborate, much more sort of basic, and brain cells kill off, versus a rat, for example, that's exposed to a really exciting life, I guess, without partying. Has a lot of social experiences.
Yeah, one that listens to the Jake Penland show and stuff,
Exactly. Much more complexity in their dendritic branching.
So does
Jake's followers on Twitter.
Yeah.
Let's not get into the cult of Jake today, because I tell you,
can we please talk about that? Because I think that's a show in and of itself. It's a
fascinating
sociological experiment. I'm fascinated by it.
Psychoanalyze everybody.
I think I proved the point that brain chemistry is changeable when you follow my followers. Some people have gotten smart.
But is that more, Jake, about the fact that people change the way they behave because of the reactions they get, or is it more that the brain chemistry is changing, or is it a mixture of the two?
Mixture of all.
It's a mixture of all. Yeah. By the way, Katie, is there a word for that study? Like that's
that environment can actually change the brain.
Well, all of it, like you were saying, biological and like just the grander scheme of humanity and all the effects and the confluence of factors.
Well, it's the whole nature versus nurture debate, and I think everybody
Who
knows, who's looking at this understands that it's no this or that. It's absolutely a mixture. It's a confluence of events, absolutely. And one of the greatest
no study. Oh, go ahead.
Well, no, I mean, there's a number of studies, because before everyone said, okay, we're just fixed at birth, and how our genetic code basically programs us to how we react, how we behave, how we think about the world. And the really exciting research, probably the most important neuroscientific finds over the last 10 to 20 years, have been in this field of neuroplasticity. Wait a minute, the environment can actually shape how we think, shape how we behave emotionally, not only functionally or behaviorally, but at an anatomical level, if that makes sense. So we see brain changes.
They try and do this through the media. They try and get us to change the way we think and we behave through the media and the things that they feed us, just through the television.
Yes.
Yes. Yeah.
So,
was that a question?
No, it was.
Yeah, no, you're right. I mean,
it was a statement.
This is. I mean, we're all pretty much. At least Katie and I are in agreement that this was one of the early debates I had that used to make me so mad. Was one of the things I talk about a lot is alcoholism, and people would make they claim it was a disease, which used to piss me off for obvious reasons. And again, I've been vindicated by the NIMH, but
no, wrong.
I'm lumping it all now. You can't stop me. Rolling Stone.
No.
No, I'm right about everything. It's too late. So anywho.
Oh God.
No, but just
I can't mute you, Jake.
All right, I'll make this succinct. Here's the deal.
Jake,
you don't even know what I'm saying yet, Katie. Hold on.
Okay.
If you drink all the time, you can actually damage your brain.
Well, yes, absolutely.
And your brain can become
dependent. That's a toxin going into your brain.
Absolutely, but one of the arguments I continually had was that people that were alcoholics had different brain chemistry, and there were studies on it, as if they were born. And what was ignored is that their brain is different because they've been feeding it alcohol non-stop. That was my point.
Okay, I hear you, but I think in our last conversation, not to completely derail Xander's show, but in my last appearance on your radio show, we talked about the fact that there's very strong evidence that people with kind of genetically linked alcoholism, your brains start out very differently, and I think that's the danger of saying nothing is biologically determined.
Right, and
it's not saying that alcohol. If I say alcoholism likely has a very strong genetic component at some level, that doesn't mean that people are alcoholics no matter what, and they can't change it. It just means that certain brains are predisposed or more vulnerable to the addictive process.
You can be born with an alcohol addiction, can't you?
No.
Isn't that fetal alcohol syndrome? Isn't that being born with an addiction to alcohol?
Fetal alcohol syndrome is being born of the effects of a mother drinking heavily during pregnancy or in uterine alcohol exposure. And you see with cognitive deficits, motor deficits, et cetera. You're not necessarily addicted to alcohol, depending on the degree. You want more whiskey with your formula?
Where's my drink, bitch? That's his first word. No, you're right. Okay. I'll tell you what, on
and that's my only concern, Jake, with your position is that it's just this environment is everything, and that's just absolutely not the case.
Well, I mean, environment is the great deal breaker. I mean, genetics may have an impact, but really...
Here's a good analogy. Some really good analogies, as I've already proven with my baby and the thing.
Baby think, right.
So you have your genetic DNA is sort of your genetic blueprint, the hardware on your computer, right?
Right.
Environment is all the software that comes into play. And so you can have a gene for something. And now what really is exciting is the field is epigenetics, or sort of this the study into factors and chemicals that actually affect how genes are expressed or not expressed. So we all may have our own genetic DNA code, but whether a gene is expressed or inhibited or expressed abnormally is dependent on a number of different factors.
I think that's fascinating.
And they might be able to turn that on and off in the future, is that right? They might be able to.
That's a scary thing. So you think, let's talk about homosexuality for a minute.
Yeah.
And so there's a number of really, let's get back to your major topic. There are very interesting studies that show sort of there's no homosexual gene. If we found that, it would have been found already. There's no alcoholic gene, right?
No.
Found it, we would have been talking about
homosexual
it.
Homosexual genes are Jordache.
They are.
Jake has several pairs.
Yes.
Forged to him by Eli.
Gap boot cut.
That's a different story.
Gaps.
Yeah.
And those skinny jeans. What am I talking about? Skinny jeans are homosexual jeans. Anyway, sorry.
I don't think they make Jordache anymore.
I know. What a old fucking guy I am.
1987.
What a reference.
Don't have Dr. Katie and Dr. Jake on the same show again. So let's bring that point forward a bit, the homosexuality point.
Yes.
There's a lot of people that kind of, because you have a boyfriend and a wife, but there are some schools of thought that you're born gay, and other people kind of think that it's environmental. And I was saying to Jake at the foot of the show, I was raised by heterosexual people, but that didn't make me straight. It didn't. I have 5 straight brothers who always had straight porn around, and would always say, "Oh, look how gorgeous her tits are," and things like
older?
that. But yeah, all of them.
That's a really interesting line of study right now. It's sort of the birth order, and it's significantly more. Individuals who identify with homosexuality have older siblings, older brothers that are straight. And what?
I said shit. I have older brothers.
Older brothers, exactly.
Oh, okay, good.
I don't think Jenny and Jessica are that masculine to count as brothers.
No, it's a really interesting look. I mean, they're looking into sort of some kind of immunological response when you're in utero to women who've already given birth to a number of males, because it's actually a pretty significant finding. Anyway, go ahead.
Wow, that's fascinating.
It is. No, it is. Look it up.
I will.
I'm sorry. Go on.
Older brothers? What's it called? What can I look up?
Birth order.
Oh, that's fascinating.
Yeah, I have five older brothers and 4 sisters.
Fraternal birth order effect.
I'm the youngest
sort of this progressive immunization to males to kind of. So when you get to the neurological evidence thus far in terms of homosexuality, you're looking at kind of sensitivity or reaction to or impact of androgen. So how sensitive you are to those hormones or not, and that's what they're finding. I mean, brains of homosexual men look very similar to heterosexual women in terms of how sensitive they are to androgen or estrogen, et cetera. Does that make sense?
How capable of being logical they are.
That's also a very interesting point, because one of the structural changes you see in terms of actual structure of the brain is heterosexual women and homosexual males have very similar amygdala volumes, which is very much one of our kind of limbic system structures important for emotion regulation. So, no, I'm not even being funny.
No, it
basically empirically validates the irrationality of women and homosexual men.
I'm never, ever wrong.
No, you're
not. You have now convinced me, Katie. I think your field, I've been calling it quacky. I think you're on to something.
I'm telling you, Jake.
I was wrong about you. Damn right.
Seriously. When you're done kind of with the lunatics, you need to go back to school, only because that's...
I'll go to school. What should I study?
There are some... Neurobiology.
All right, I will.
I'm telling you, I think eventually all of your theories that you just know and get and understand will have neurobiological backing.
All right.
So how does puberty accelerate
back
all of
onto
this?
our subject.
Yeah. You're very hard to keep in line, you two. So how does puberty, because obviously, for me, you two, you just get a freaking room, for God's sake. Puberty, as far as I'm concerned, because like when I hit puberty, obviously you've got testosterone going around your body and all of this. How does all of this change your brain, and how does that relate to sexuality? Does it awaken it, or?
Very much so. So that's, again, getting back to this field of epigenetics, really important periods in your life. So intrauterine, or pregnancy, so we can go back to blaming moms for a lot, and puberty. So I'm not going there. Toxins introduced, diet, or even nutrients introduced in utero during pregnancy or during puberty very much influence, particularly when we're talking about sexual preference, sexual development, really important periods.
I have a friend whose mom is convinced that her son is gay because she listened to a lot of Barbra Streisand while she was pregnant. Seriously.
Absolutely. I think that was just published in Brain.
I mean...
Serious.
No, it wasn't.
It's hilarious, the ideologies that some people... have about it. But the funny thing
we
is,
all know it's Glee, actually, in fact, the show Glee.
Yeah, but how do you
Glee
explain that
horrible.
Before Glee, then pre-Glee?
PG.
What was it? Was it Fame, in my era? Was it that my mom watched Fame, or, what was it?
It's tough to know, and that's why we're all here. We are going to get to the bottom of this on this show.
But interestingly, the funny thing is, it's weird that quite often there's more than one gay person in a family. Like, I'm the youngest of 10. Like, my dad was married before, and my eldest sister is a lesbian. No, Jewish.
Oh my God!
No
What's going on there?
Yeah.
Jews are much smarter than that. Come on.
You tell me. Oh no, it's my mom that is, not my dad. But
yes, there is a higher concordance rate. What's the gold standard of looking at genetic versus environmental influences? Jake, we talked about this last show.
Oh, the twins, the
twins,
identical twins.
Exactly.
Yes.
So if you see a higher rate in identical twins, why? Because they share all of their genetic material.
Right.
Right.
Oh, was I supposed to say that? I'm sorry.
No, that's okay.
Genetic material.
And you see, like, I think it's around 30% concordance, or 30% of one twin who is homosexual. You'll see that, and the other twin. So there's heritability there that we have to explain in some point. So yes, go ahead, Xander. I was just backing your point.
No, I
didn't mean to derail.
I mean, obviously, I'm not a twin. My sister is a lot older than me, but there is a lot of.
You share also. More
we share a father, but we don't share a mother. We have different mothers.
So your dad's got the gay gene.
So it's your dad's fault.
Yeah, I guess so. But most of the gay people that I know, they all. I am never surprised when they say, "Oh yeah, my brother's gay" or "My sister's gay," because there is this kind of, I don't know, maybe this is just my gay lay attempt to explain things, but there always seems to be more than one gay person in a family.
But if I could step in, that can also back up the environment argument.
Sure.
I mean, you're raised in the same family. If you believe it's a dysfunctional family, at least homosexuality, and you have, multiple gay people, then you're going, oh, okay, well, obviously they were abused or whatever. So it doesn't. Here's a question I got for you, Xander, and this is because you're gay and fat, so it's the double with you.
Oh my God.
Okay.
Gay people and fat people and drunks and all sorts of people, they're always looking for some sort of genetic discovery, and I find it fascinating, of course. But is there a part of you that thinks like it's kind of the Holy Grail that once you find, let's say there is a quote-unquote gay or fat gene, that's immediately releases you of all responsibility?
No.
You just be honest.
No.
Please, someone be honest with me.
As I said to you at the beginning of the show, the reason I wanted to do the show is because I find it very interesting. It's not going to change me one iota. I'm not going to be, like I said, rushing off into New York City looking for pussy. Right. It's just out of interest, and I don't. For me, because I'm comfortable with my sexuality, and believe me, it's taken a long time to get to that point. I'm comfortable with who I am, but that doesn't mean that I still don't want to know a bit more about it. There are some people that are less comfortable and would like to have things to blame it on. But I mean, for me,
the gay lobby, quote unquote, would love it if there was a gay gene found, because that would knock out the argument for the churches. That would knock out pretty much every argument. So there is this quest. Like it is the Holy Grail.
I think for some people it is, but I think that it's dangerous to generalize, because I think the church have got a different issue with it, which opens up a bigger argument. Because for me in this country, the people that of the religious.
You're echoing, by the way, again.
Yeah, I know. I was just thinking that, and I don't have any page open, so their theory is BS. We were talking earlier because Blog Talk Radio's technology is shit, basically, and they tried to blame it on having pages open with chat and all of this, but clearly it's not that.
Look, the church argument against homosexuality would be basically disproven if it is genetic, because then you're saying that God designed homosexuality.
No. Yes and no. This is the thing for me, because I'm pretty spiritual. I believe God made me as I am, and a lot of people would see that as blasphemous. Because however I've tried to change it's never worked. I can pretend to be butch, and I can talk about how nice someone's breasts are and how I might like to sleep with them, but at the end of the day, it doesn't make me heterosexual.
Xander, when were you first aware that you were homosexual? Or something else?
Very young. I think I was about 8 or 9 when I first realized I was different. But it's like when some people say to me, as an adult gay person, and they say, "Oh, don't you think that kid's going to end up being gay?" I don't think it, because some kids are skippy, effeminate things anyway. Jake still is, but he likes women. You know what I mean? So it doesn't necessarily equate. But I was very young when I knew I was different. But I also had the added complication of having behavioral problems. So I kind of fought against my sexuality.
Don't give Jake any leg to stand on here.
I know, you're just coming to my trap.
I'm not coming into your anything, thank you very much. But for me, it still comes down to individuality, Katie, because you can see 10 people with the same set of circumstances, and everyone's going to have a different story to tell you.
Yep.
And people lie. Let's be honest.
And they do, because we have to build a construct that makes us feel comfortable about ourselves and our lives.
Well, see, that's what I'm getting at, Xander. So you can speak for all homosexuals now.
No, good. I'm glad they needed somebody to do that.
Yeah, exactly. It's not Lady Gaga anymore. It's you. Let's say Katie and her band of misfits discovered that there is no genetic precursor. Sorry, making up my own words, for homosexuality, and it is indeed discovered that it is environmental. Let's just play alternate dimension. Let's say we go in the future and it's happened. Okay.
Right.
Now, how terrifying is that? What's that?
What?
Can we just knock this down now?
What do you mean?
So we will never find 100% one way or the other. So there are people who are homosexual because of environmental reasons. There are people who are homosexual absolutely because of, I will say, epigenetic reasons.
All right, what's the percentage? How about that?
Well, if you look, one of the best ways to look at that is the concordance rate between monozygotic twins, again, which is about 30%.
Okay. So 30% of homosexuals
there's definitely a percentage of, it's not everybody, but there's absolutely something there. I mean, if you look at our friend the fruit fly, for example, we study the fruit fly because they have a very simplistic
aptly named
nervous system.
No pun intended, of course.
But you can literally, I mean, they have a homosexual gene. You can literally turn off or inhibit that gene and
make
fruit
called
flies
the fruit fly?
gay.
But
it is exactly why.
But there is homosexuality in the animal kingdom, and it's totally natural. You know, I often see this thing floating around Facebook. It says, you know, homosexuality is found in blah 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 number of species, but the discrimination against homosexuals is only found in one. And I think that's amazing. It's there in nature. You know, I've seen so many nature programs about, you know, gay animals, like two animals of the same sex that live together and have sex with each other. But animals don't kind of discriminate. It's humans that are fucked up. And
well, think about all of us. I mean, there's to be able to try to explain why we are sexually attracted to even one person versus another person within our sex. I mean, there's so much that's at play here that we're not even cognizant of.
Right.
And when you start talking about pheromones, that's one of the big areas of study. I mean, just our reaction, our gut visceral reaction to the hormonal sense that the opposite sex or the same sex sets off, and that's where a lot of the research has been. And you will see study after study showing homosexual men very similar to heterosexual women in terms of their visceral, unconscious brain activation in sort of our sexual zones of our brain, reaction to chemicals we're not even aware of being secreted. I mean, there's something there.
So what about bisexuality then?
What about? That's another.
What about
That's
bisexuality?
probably a
continuum. Again, there's no right or wrong answers, and I think where we have to be is open to basically the explanation that it's a confluence of events. So in some people it may be completely environmentally based.
Right.
Either you're sexually abused or perhaps not sexually abused. I mean, many will argue the presence of sexual abuse should be a flag for aversion to, you know, same-sex sexuality. It could be completely biologically based. You have kids or individuals who have grown up in a really environmentally sound situation and will report from very early on sort of an attraction to same sex. So we're never going to have the right answer. So the answer is to, and what we need to be really cognizant of is what the implications are. So like Jake talked about, if we completely ascribe to a genetic explanation then for everything, then there is this tendency to say, I don't have control over this, therefore I don't have to do anything about it. Vice versa.
And it becomes a cop-out, doesn't it? Really,
it's a cop-out.
It's like me saying, "Oh, I'm a fat ass because of it's genetic, or I'm big boned." You know, as these people
and
say.
there's certainly a factor there going to play, but you can't just stop there. There's also the flip side, which is, I would argue, more damaging. The religious fervence, etc., things. Completely moral choice. People are depraved. Just 30 years ago, it was in our Bible of the DSM that it was a psychiatric disorder. That's not helpful either. That's scary too. Making people feel like they're making choices that are sinful or wrong, and they're not even aware they're making it. And then think, for example, if we come up with sort of a viable genetic explanation for homosexuality, or we find we're not going to find a gene, but maybe a series of chemicals, a methyl group, for example, that really affects the gene expression for homosexuality. If you can control that, then what happens? At a biotech level,
well, then I lose probably 1,000 followers on Twitter. I mean, let's be real.
All right, so that people who are trying to have children, if you go for a genetic screen and somebody says, okay, look, you are showing signs of a genetic child, are people going to terminate pregnancy? I mean, you have to think of those things.
Katie, are we saying that's a bad scenario?
Yeah, of course.
Why is that a bad scenario?
Imagine the complexity of that.
Why is that a bad scenario?
They got a gay guy and a woman, so this is going to be really emotional, this conversation. One at a time, people.
Of course. Well, I mean, where does it end? I understand with regards to illness and stuff.
But let's ask Xander a very honest question. If you could start over and say, I am going to be a heterosexual male and not have to deal with the bullshit of the world and live my life, marry who I want, love who I want, would you do it? Would you choose to have that lifestyle?
Definitely not. No, not for any amount of money, really.
Because
although it's taken a long time, I'm actually comfortable in who I am. I mean, my flirting with the religious sector of all of this, with being made to feel that it was wrong, drove me to have sex with girls. I had sex with girls when I was growing up, and I could manage the clinical side of it without going into great details. But I kind of had to imagine she was somebody else.
Mhm.
I was trying to be polite for you, Katie.
So you made her wear a football outfit, and you had butt tucks.
No. I made her wear a Leonardo DiCaprio mask.
Fair enough. Well, hold on. Wait a minute. You just say no. We're all happy that you're comfortable with yourself now. I mean, that's great.
But what if the world is not becoming progressively acceptive of where you were?
Absolutely. And also, what if you didn't have to go through the years of becoming comfortable? What if you were born?
And I know neither of you have children, but here's the other question: would you want a child to be growing up and suffering in a world that's not accepting of where they are?
No, but I wouldn't kind of wish that someone wasn't gay, because I think that I did for long enough, but that was more to do with other people's responses to my sexuality, not my own. And I think if other people had left me alone and just let me be who I wanted to be, like silly things like, oh, you shouldn't wear pink because it's for girls and all that BS.
But that's the point we're making there, Xander, is that had you been born, quote unquote, I don't want to say normal, but heterosexual, you wouldn't have had those kinds of conversations, and then you wouldn't have had to. And then you wouldn't have had to eat so much to cover up for it.
That's not why I eat so much. I eat so much because it's a love substitution. But that's
I know. Well, let's not get all creepy here.
And if you look at
that's not creepy at all.
Look at the areas. Now look at the areas of the brain implicated in sort of sexual preference and sexual attraction. The very same areas. It's the reward circuit of the brain implicated in our love-or-hate relationship with food, drugs of abuse. I mean, love's addicting.
And this could be the same reason why
you can't. It's the same sort of physiological and behavioral response as doing heroin. You want to talk to that person again.
And this explains Jake's addiction to masturbation too, I guess.
Absolutely. No joke. And I wouldn't say I'm addicted.
Same area of the brain.
I wouldn't say I'm addicted to masturbation, but it is this. Yeah, it's a dopamine release. I'm sure of it.
Yeah,
I'll tell you.
Me too.
But hold on, Xander.
I mean, I get it from a pile of food. So go on.
Forget the fat jokes. I was trying to be funny. I apologize. If you could have spared the drama of your life for being a rump ranger, would you have done it? Be honest.
This is what we need to work on, Jake.
No, definitely not. If you'd have asked me that when I was growing up, I probably would have said, yeah. Would I have liked to walk down the street and not been called a fat queer or whatever? Yes, but I think
ideally
the
world should be a better place, Xander, but that's not necessarily the reality. I mean,
and one of the arguments of why the world has been so slow to sort of evolve is because when you're talking strictly scientific and evolutionary, it's not evolutionarily sound for our species to be homosexual, right?
Right.
And so, and that's one of the arguments against the genetic predisposition for it, is why something that, for example, you wouldn't want everybody to be
but
I have to be really careful here, but blind or something that falls in the minority of what the normal expression of human behavior is. It's not evolutionarily advantageous. I mean, that's the cold hard fact.
It's not, but this is going to blow your mind, because I have a theory that homosexuality is actually part of nature, because the planet is so overwhelmed that the more gay people there are, the less reproduction there's going to be.
Yeah, but then there would just be less people. But hold on, now we're going on a digression.
There's also a really interesting theory that shows in the families of homosexual men, there is an increase in fertility in the women. And so there's sort of this, that's one of the responses to why has homosexuality stayed around all these years if it's not evolutionarily advantageous. It's that whatever's going on.
It makes the women
more fertile.
Yeah.
Oh, that's interesting.
So yeah, it's a really, I can't remember the actual.
Because the
here's the deal. I'm just
fundamental
gonna
purpose of it all is to reproduce, isn't it? Let's face it, the fundamental purpose of it all is to reproduce.
You come back to all of
for women to have
the
more
primal
kids.
drives of humans: eat, drink,
absolutely.
reproduce.
And so gay people kind of go against that primordial drive.
Not
They,
totally.
Absolutely. I mean, no, absolutely.
Yeah.
If we were gay, we would die, right?
Go on, Jake. You had a point. Yeah, absolutely.
No.
I mean, I wouldn't, but I would be fine. I would be fantastic. Sorry, you were going to make a point.
No, I was digressing. You guys continue.
No,
well, I halted this show. If I could have a kid, if I had a kid, okay. This is the question. You have kids, Katie.
Yes.
If they came to me and said, one of the hardest parts for me, because I'm, completely intelligent and attractive, and well endowed. There isn't much genetically that I'm not proud of, but I am balding and I don't like that. So,
but humble,
they told me,
way too humble.
If they said, hey, you're gonna have a kid, you're gonna have a son, and he's gonna be, beautiful like you and smart and perfect in every way, but he's also gonna lose his hair. And they had a genetic alternative that I could snip that out. I absolutely would. Absolutely would. And I know that the implications are playing God and Nazis and all that. I don't have a problem with that because think about this.
You know how much pain it's brought you in your life.
Well, that and also when I'm attracted to a woman, the animal response is I'm looking for a mate, and that's going to be half my genetic makeup for my kid. So I'm not going to go with like an 800 pound.
And for you, probably 75%.
What's that?
And for you, probably 75 to 80%.
What?
Propensity to want to mate.
Oh.
God, you know you
going
so
by what
well.
has been spoken about. Okay,
no, but I'm just saying. So, like, if I see like a 2-foot black woman with Down syndrome disorder, I'm not going to go, oh, she's a suitable partner for a child.
Right.
So, she may be hot, and maybe I'll wear a condom or something, but I'm not going to want to have a kid with this person. So. You're already, if you think about it, you're already doing that playing God, choosing genetics for your kids anyway by selection of a mate. So what's wrong with having a clipboard? Saying no, I don't want to be fat.
You realize what you just did. You likened being bald to being gay.
Yes, it's very similar. We're talking about the genetic gays.
Well, if you think about it, if women are less likely to mate with males who are bald, it's just as sort of rate limiting as homosexuality in terms of evolution. If you guys are allowed to divorce,
it's true. I mean, I got married.
I'm not saying that's true in any way, shape, or form, but
no, it is absolutely true. A woman's not going to select a bald guy for her first guy. She's not. Like she'll fall in love and she'll go, okay, whatever. But in the back of her mind, she's like, oh, my kid might be bald. She is thinking that.
But are bald men more virile, or is that just a rumor spread around by
people? They have more
testosterone. Is passed along on the maternal side of things, so you're safe. But no, your point is well taken.
Thank you.
I mean, we can
pretend
to be advanced in sort of our acceptance and tolerance of all, but we're always fighting these primal drives, and that is to continue our species. Obviously, that's important. If that wasn't a primal drive, we wouldn't be sitting here on our podcast discussing this.
No.
And so you always have to balance what's sort of the primal evolutionary drive versus, what we'd love to be as very evolved humans.
I think we all would. And I don't think that imperative kind of disappears just because you're gay either. I'm gay and I would like to have kids. My boyfriend and I tried for a baby for long enough, but it just didn't happen.
It didn't work because
look at heterosexual situations of women who are older, like myself, who are trying to have children at an older age. First of all, it's ridiculous. Do not have children at an older age. How old are you? I'm not. It's Xander.
You can never ask someone how old.
Please.
Women that. But it's true. I mean, you have increasing difficulties with maternal age when you're trying to reproduce.
Right, you needed aid, right?
The world has kind of moved beyond that. And so getting back to all of your new teen pregnancy followers, Jake, I'm trying to bring this full circle.
Oh, gosh.
An argument that we should just get all of our teens pregnant because, if you look at my 5-year-old in the basket case she is, I'll make an argument for that, right?
What is the argument? I'm confused. That older women shouldn't have children?
It's harder, right? It's harder to get pregnant as you get older. And there's an increase in genetic disorders as you get older. Your eggs get less good.
No, you get like that. The kid's more prone to being Downs, right?
Downy, absolutely, along with a number of other things. So, again, evolutionarily based. We'd love to say, everybody take your time and find yourself and go to graduate school. And, I mean, we're already coming up with technology to freeze your eggs and kind of get around that. But, I mean, that's the whole hard cold fact to that.
That's true. So we are playing God.
I'm just trying to bring it around to the ball. I'm trying to relate, right?
I think
the bald
issue,
the old
the bald
issue,
what I'm trying to say is
the gay issue.
Well, all of it. Like, if you want your kid to have a healthy life, you want to protect them from everything, and it's already irrational as a parent anyway.
You want to take all pain away. That's why we're getting. And I'm one of the me, Jake. I'm one of the biggest proponents against spoiled, rotten, entitled kids. And yet I see myself. I understand now that I'm finally a mother, where that's coming from. You don't want your children, who you love more than life itself, to feel any kind of pain, any kind of struggle, even though you know it's good for them. It kills you. It's part of yourself.
It's a societal issue. As far all of these things are societal issues, because we wouldn't be having this conversation if there weren't so many bigoted people in society, and if people just live and let live. Not just about the bald thing or the gay thing, but around everything. And the reason we need to analyze and overanalyze these things is because society kind of makes them a big issue, in my opinion.
Yeah, but who runs society? I mean, this could go in circle. I mean, people are bigoted. You could argue that's natural. You could.
Well,
I would.
And that's kind of what I was arguing. It's not necessarily bigoted. Again, it comes down to our primal instincts to survive as a species.
Right. You don't want someone different and weird in your clan because they'll try and eat your babies.
Right. And you look.
But it's true. Look at
species. I mean, the reason why we as animals and humans emit chemical like pheromones is because you want to be able to sense out who is within your species versus who's a predator. I mean, if you take it down there, then you can start explaining racism, why we are more prone to be comfortable with people like us. I mean, that's evolutionarily based, right?
Of course. Yeah, and black people are lazy. So it's like, why would you want to? No, but seriously. Yeah, no.
And that's the other thing. Where pheromones are emitted, in males it's through their sweat, and females it's through their urine. And so females are obviously more attracted to men who are working hard and not lazy.
Is that why some straight men like to be peed on?
Oh, God.
Xander.
I should have known we were going there.
I'm sorry,
I should have seen that, and I completely let us into that.
That's because they have the pee on me gene. It has nothing to do with.
I think that's on chromosome 24.
Right.
But I don't smell women's
You're in
pee.
luck because Katie knew which one it was.
Do you? But when I smell my wife, for instance, like if she's worked out or she's sweaty, I think I'm picking up on a pheromone in her sweat. They have to give us something in their sweat.
Sure. It's just
I do get attracted to her more when she's sweaty.
Okay.
Thank you for sharing that.
Not when she pees, I'm not.
My 12 listeners.
Okay, here's the
thing. Katie, tell me a little bit about.
Snorted.
Hey, it's all right. Only 12 people listen to my show, and 6 of them are Jake's mother and sisters and nephews.
That's twice what I get. So
So tell me a little bit about, because I kind of want to understand this. When we talk about, Jake and I talked about this earlier on today on the phone about when you're in love and what actually happens chemically. Your heart beats faster. What chemicals surge around your body? What's that all about?
Dopamine.
Dopamine's
your key chemical there. It's a reinforcer of the brain. It activates the same circuits. So again, getting back to what evolutionarily makes most sense for us to reproduce, sex drive and attraction has to be related to some sort of reward, as eating, keeping ourselves viable. And so all of those get back to what we call the reward circuit, or the mesolimbic pathway in the brain. And so you have these really primal areas of the brain that even animals have, the limbic system, that just sort of surge emotion are all about getting your emotional needs met, having sex, eating to your heart's desire, and then as humans, we've developed these really elaborate cortex, or kind of our stop systems of the brain that help us, under normal circumstances, say, okay, it's okay. We can't just go up and have sex with everybody we see. It's what's been the foundation of kind of our social structure. And so there's kind of this really delicate balance between what we call the stop areas of the brain, or our cortex, and the go areas, the kind of more primal limbic system areas. But all of these, if you map kind of food, sex, and certainly drugs of abuse, you'll hear people often say really hijack these systems.
Right.
And so, dopamine, any drug that affects the release of dopamine, for example, which is the neurochemical that floods through these systems of the brain, cocaine, alcohol, anything that kind of increases the surge of dopamine, increases the reward areas. So at a very biochemical, physiological level, you're feeling more reward. The problem with humans is that we layer on top of that a lot of behavioral issues. So it's all the conditioning, and we make it that much harder to stop. Eating what we want to eat, or taking drugs. You can see somebody you took drugs with, or you can see a cheeseburger, and all of those things just activate that system, even without having the food. If that makes sense.
But Jake was saying something earlier about he kind of sees love a bit differently, don't you, Jake?
No, I really, my whole argument was shot early on. Because Katie admitted that. I mean, it's true though. I mean, the truth is,
everything comes down to chemicals. I'm sorry.
Well, all our arguments are really shot because the term. The word of the day here, the phrase of the day from the show is confluence of factors. So, who knows anymore? Fuck, I don't even have any theories anymore because there's too many. There's literally too many. All I said before you called in, Katie, was that I believe love is real. Because Xander, I don't know if you mentioned that here because I wasn't listening the last time.
You believe what is real?
Weren't talking about me. No, love. He was trying to. I'm just kidding. He's trying to make the argument that love is not real. That it's and I've heard. It's not just from Xander. I've heard this a million times from people that drive me fucking crazy. And they go, "Love's not real. It's a series of chemicals." And it's like, no. Love is real. It's just that's how your brain understands love. So the chemical reaction doesn't take away.
That doesn't make it unreal.
Exactly.
That enhances it. So we perceive what's happening chemically in our brain. So for some reason you had a huge dopamine release to, I don't know, a rock. You'd feel the same thing physiologically that most of us feel towards, somebody who's beautiful or someone we're attracted to.
Right.
Physically. Does that make sense?
I wouldn't fall in love with a rock.
Right. You wouldn't what?
I wouldn't fall in love with a rock.
Right, because it's
not anymore anyway.
A rock doesn't, but for some people,
any inanimate
you get into
object.
Trying to understand some of the really abnormal.
What have you seen these? I saw this documentary a couple of years ago on the BBC about people that buy these life-size, like not a blow-up doll, but it's like a real kind of like rubber person, and they dress them up, they talk to them, they have sex with them. And some of these people are so kind of like far, out of society that this is their life. And there are even people that do it with babies. They
or
buy
maybe they're smarter, blow-up dolls don't talk back.
Yeah.
I was going to say, it's
that's a great idea, actually.
It's less expensive. It's an investment.
Absolutely.
Like you got to pay the $4,000 up front, but then you never have to buy dinner ever again.
There's no residual cost.
Yeah,
and they never say
age.
No rejection.
Right. No headaches.
The minute real dolls learn to make a sandwich, the women are going to be extinct in one generation, maybe 2 generations.
We'll be extinct because we have nothing to do with reproduction.
Which is why. Oh yeah, that's true. Shit. See, again, there's no argument here.
It all comes back, doesn't it, to the same,
It basically does. Everything comes back to the
uterus
primal drive.
rules everything, basically. The
Just
female
to clarify
genitals.
one thing.
Yes.
Ew.
It's true,
though. To clarify one thing, I can't even say the word. I can't even get my lips around the word. I can say
vagina.
But
what's the word you can't say?
We'll try again before the end of the show. I just wanted to clarify a point. It's not that I don't believe in love. I was just offering that as another kind of idea to kind of put on the table to talk about. But I do believe in love, and I think it's something that's very difficult to kind of break down and to kind of to say exactly what it is, because it's a feeling and you can't quantify feelings. It's very difficult to quantify the way that we feel.
Well, so all this is difficult to quantify.
That's what we've come up with.
Yeah,
but I think
we know
after all these smart people talking, we know less now than we did at the beginning of this.
Yeah.
This is why
I
smart
think
people
what we
should
know
talk.
is tolerance, right? I mean, I think that's what that's the only thing. That's the only common theme I have throughout. So if you try to quantify why specifically you're attracted to somebody versus somebody else, and we're not talking obvious differences, but two people that have similar weight and height, but one's a brunette or one has certain personality characteristics, I mean, that's what our system reacts to, that's what our system responds to, that's what sort of instigates the chemical reactions that cause us to feel love. And in certain individuals, I absolutely believe biologically that it's same-sex preference.
Right.
And so we come back to tolerance.
But then it's funny, my sister reminded me of a friend of ours who was like, all the time we were growing up, she was like seeing guys and stuff, and then she got to like 21 or 22, and then was a lesbian. And she said, well, how do you quantify that? I mean, not that quantify is the right word, but I think clearly she was probably gay, and she was kind of trying to be something that she wasn't. But that's dangerous too, isn't it? I mean,
Well, I mean, I think either or environmentally, really, those factors determined what she kind of finally ended up with. The associations she made with men versus women were very strong in terms of what, if you want to break it down to biology, what chemical reaction was taking place. And interestingly, there's a lot less neurobiological research supporting female homosexuality than male, but that's a whole other topic.
Why is that? Interesting. I'm interested to know why is that. Is that because more study has been done into the female side of it, or what?
No, I mean there's just more evidence that shows kind of more of a biological basis to male homosexuality than female. Not that discounts female homosexuality, but the biomarkers they're looking at now, you find more significant differences when you're looking at male homosexuality
most
and female.
Are completely reactionary.
They
really are.
Most
women
are.
Yeah,
women are. So it just
So that's probably why it's hard to quantify, because they don't have normal brains because they're female.
He's clearly fishing for reaction.
Oh no, I'm just kidding. Here's what we need. It's tolerance, but also if we do have the ability to control genetics, then I think a simple solution is a pure white Aryan race
of women. You are absolutely
nothing I can say to respond to that in an appropriate manner.
Let's just.
All right, I'm sorry. No, really. I mean, tolerant.
Just a reminder that
the establishment of a purely white Aryan race, male Aryan race.
How come no one's ever tried that? I mean, why has no one ever tried that?
I don't know.
Hello,
Hitler.
Hitler, did you forget about that Jew boy?
Oh, God, that guy was he was on to something, let me tell you. No, here's the deal.
Before his time.
It was ahead of his time.
I have to just reiterate that the views of the guests on Xandermonium are not necessarily the views of the show, so don't write in or email.
This is Xander. This is why you cannot tag me on Facebook. Do you hear me right now?
Yeah, me either. Don't let anyone listen to this.
You're not on Facebook, are you, Katie?
Yes.
If she is, she's not telling you that.
Do not tag me on Facebook. I'm already in trouble for my husband on Twitter. I'm like on a Twitter ban now. God.
Really? Why are you on a Twitter ban?
Yes, Twitter's
so funny.
It's become really complicated for me because a couple of my husband's major investors in his company are following me.
Oh.
And I just tweeted out his email. Freaking hard.
So funny. That email was so fucking
about
funny.
blowjob or something completely inappropriate, and
All right, so I'm not going to talk to you on Twitter anymore for protection of your husband.
No.
Well, I'll just keep
That's what you do. I mean, this is what happens. You can't. Anyway.
People just need to.
Twitter's a very interesting world. That's what our next show needs to be about.
It is, absolutely.
I'm going to write a book
I'm
about.
Glad. Go on.
The social
I just want to say,
of Twitter.
Katie's article. I almost said blog again. Oof, that would have been bad.
Yeah, we didn't get
article
to that,
on the butt fuckers getting married.
Oh my.
was actually no, but really, your article on gay marriage.
Did you guys watch Game of Thrones?
What's that?
Did you watch Game of Thrones?
No.
Oh.
It's too gratuitous for me. I'm actually
phenomenal reference this week of sword swallowers. That's why I said that. Go ahead.
Oh, okay.
Sword swallowers. I love that. That's a fabulous euphemism.
It's a great show.
Hey, Mom, I'm a sword swallower.
Anyhow, your article on sword swallowers was brilliant, and really that's the topic of the show. Let's bring your show.
Tell us what made you write that, Katie. What?
Because it's about tolerance.
Tolerance,
very good
exactly,
point.
and that's what it comes to. I mean, in all of my sort of, I've sort of eschewed religion. I was raised Catholic, and as I've grown, and certainly was trained by a scientist, it becomes harder and harder to adopt a lot of the religious bullshit that you're fed as a child.
Right.
I find religion interesting as kind of an empirical study, but at the end of the day, it's problematic in terms of how you're living your life if you have a really strong internal moral code, is my belief. And so I find most of the arguments against equal rights for homosexuals being religiously based and intolerant, and I think that's really a huge danger. I mean, there's certainly a danger in giving people a biological basis for all of their behavior, and thus they're not responsible for that, but I see much more harm coming from where sort of the pendulum has been tipped over the years, and that is discriminating and being really hateful and hurtful towards people because they're different.
Well, isn't this how the Hitler regime started, by wanting to take away people's rights and make them behave in a certain way?
Coming back to our friend Hitler, absolutely.
No, he's not my friend.
No, it is. No, it is. And we're all sort of, again, if you look at human beings as inherently flawed creatures, we're coming from kind of a place of wanting to protect our species. And if you can look at that scientifically, you can kind of have some understanding of people who want to block everything that's different from them, or are fearful of anything that's different from them. Because again, it's evolutionarily based. But at some point, because of a huge cortex that has evolved, we've got to get to the place where we can kind of shut down or control or manage those primal instincts.
Well, I think
it's hard. It takes work and it takes discipline. It's easy not to like things that are different than us, right? It's easy.
That's true.
That's the easy way to react and behave is to negate or to block or to cut down people who are different.
But it's so un-American, because we've supposedly got the ideology in this country that we separate church and state. So the running of the country should have nothing to do with religiosity. So if the argument against gay marriage and same-sex unions is about religiosity, it should be muted right away, because we supposedly have a separation of church and state. So keep your Bible, keep your religious views. It's not imperative to the running of this country. Maybe imperative is not the right word.
It is if you're a political party that's needed to adopt that group in order to survive of late.
But
religious views.
Yes, but it doesn't. But it. I don't know. It still doesn't sit. Still doesn't sit right with me.
It shouldn't sit right.
Have it always. Because Constitution, you see, this is the thing, it kind of comes back to the Constitution. When the Constitution talks about marriage, it doesn't say whether it's a man and a woman or a man and a man. And people get started on the ideology of what the implication is. Well, we can't go into implications, and the Constitution was supposed to be a working document anyway, that's 200 and odd years old and should be updated, really.
But Xander, for the most part, those are red herring issues.
Yeah.
They're emotionally charged issues that one side can promote to distract both sides, really, to a certain extent, to distract people of what real issues should be discussed, is my opinion.
Right.
So the more emotionally charged issues you throw out, gay marriage, things that at the end of the day really don't affect that many people.
Yeah, it's a really
it's a distraction, right? Under the guise of of appealing to sort of the majority of your populace, which happens on one side to be a very religiously fervent group.
Basically, Katie's talking about Republicans.
I'm so far off the label thing now, to be honest, the Republican and Democrat thing, because I think it's divisive. It's made us far too split, and I think that we have to work more towards like cross-partisan working, because if we don't, we're never going to make this country great again. We're never going to change anything.
Intellectual fortitude, and that takes suppressing your emotional brain, which we've already discussed. Females aren't great at. Republicans aren't great at. Fervent people aren't great at. But, I mean, that's what it comes down to me, being able to be comfortable with difference, being able to be comfortable with understanding the other side enough to be able to formulate your own opinions instead of just listening to what reinforces your own beliefs and your own cognitions, your own schema, if you will, of the world.
Here's the way I'm going to wrap up your show for you, Xander. Everyone has to answer this. If there's a way, let's say there's a gene for everything.
What shoes are you wearing right now?
What's that?
I think that's the most important question. What shoes are you wearing?
Me?
Yeah.
I'm barefoot.
What shoes people wear till immense amount of
I'm wearing
I wear flip-flops.
6-inch stiletto heels.
Hold on. Yeah, see, you're right, Katie. It does say everything.
Manolo Blahniks, no less. No, I'm wearing flip-flops, actually.
What gene could we cut out? Now, everything counts as a gene now for this question for you guys.
Stop.
Okay, that could be even. It's just hypothetical. The gene could be like reacting, butthurt to emotions. Could be a gene.
No,
what single gene can we remove from people?
Don't take anything away from this conversation.
No, it's not hypothetical.
Between genetics
Let me
and
get my
epigenetics.
statement
I'm telling you that's the future of
Wait,
neurological studies.
One at a time.
Genetics versus epigenetics.
Drink from your metal bottle and your yoga pants for a second. Just calm down. Here's the deal, okay. What I'm saying is this is just a hypothetical question. I'm not saying anything. It's just think of it as a great joke, okay? We're going to write a great joke together. What single thing would you remove from people? You get one thing that you think would solve all the world's problems.
From ourselves or from everybody else?
Everybody else. Like if I would say the reacting butthurt to emotions. If you found a way that was a gene to remove and people could have emotions and then take responsibility for them. Butthurt's like, being a fucking irrational douche-tard.
Irrationality, then.
Okay, yes, fine. Thank you, Katie. Emotional irrationality.
So you want to remove all irrationality from the world.
From emotions.
Wait, emotions are irrational. Emotions are
all emotions are irrational, aren't they?
Of rationality, right? Rational is an emotionless decision, primarily cognitively based. There's your problem. So you have to look at it as Venn diagrams. So you have your emotional circle, you have your rational circle, and hopefully we all have some sort of middle that from which we operate most of the time. Does that make sense?
No, I'm still trying to think of what gene I would remove.
And my point is that you will not find one.
And you still didn't tell us what shoes you were wearing, right? Katie.
Oh yeah, what are you wearing, Katie?
I'm wearing my
shoes.
Taylors.
Yeah, what are you wearing, Katie? You said that like a dirty old man, Jake.
No, you just took it that way. Converse.
Yeah.
Fitting. So I didn't know you were a lesbian.
She's not, but her girlfriend is.
Yeah, exactly. I have to go to the bathroom really bad. I have to pee. I've been holding it in. Are we almost done here?
Thank you for sharing that. Thank you for joining us. I'm actually, before you go, Jake, I want to say I'm actually glad that we came to the conclusions that we did, because I think that says we all came to kind of similar conclusions. I'm glad because that speaks volumes about the people that we are.
You mean the white Aryan
race?
What? You're talking about the pure white race.
What in our conclusion?
Sorry. Go ahead. I'll be good.
Some of our conclusions.
Yes, go on.
Sorry, we didn't mean to interrupt.
Yeah, sorry, Xander. You were saying?
No, I was just saying that I'm glad we all came to kind of a similar conclusion, and we all kind of seem to agree that all there was probably a factor of all of these things that made a difference Who's laughing there in the background?
What's our phrase of the day?
Jake is a fucktard.
Well, the phrase of the day is it's tolerance, and also the other phrase of the day.
Confluence of events.
I was going to say that second.
Way too complicated for our retardery.
Civil discourse.
That's a take-home message.
I just have one final question. When are you and Eli going to move in together, Jake?
We already lived together for a year. We've done that. Been there, done that. That didn't work. He's too filthy. The nature-nurture is not a nature-versus-nurture debate. It's nature and nurture discussion.
Exactly.
There we go. That's what we learned today. You're welcome, Xander.
All right.
Thank you so much, both of you. We should actually do this again.
I miss you,
but on
I miss you too. This sucks.
Topic.
I'm gonna yell at Jen.
Don't get too famous. No.
I won't. Oh, don't worry. I'm not gonna. Don't ever worry about that.
How much traffic you've generated?
Yeah, but it's done. Like the Teen Mom stuff's done.
Most of the traffic is generated as people driving around looking for him to beat him up.
No, but seriously, podcasting is great, and there is a ceiling to podcasting. There is. It's not a limitless potential thing. There's a certain number. So don't worry. I'll never be.
We're moving.
That's what I'm saying.
We're moving into
television.
So when do we
move to radio?
I would love to move to radio, but I don't know. I don't think that's ever going to happen for me, honestly. I think because
you won't be moving into television?
No, or radio. I think podcasting's the thing, because radio is, it's corporate, and I'm not corporate. You're not. What ad can you sell on a show when a guy talks about a pure Aryan white race and calls homosexuals?
Yeah, who's gonna
swords?
I'm not gonna get it. Right.
Remember when I asked a friend of mine if they about advertising on my show, and they said that my subject matter kind of left too much to be desired? I was like, yeah, really.
But Katie, we are still going to do that. I'm still going to try and do that show where we go save fat people. I'm still working on that, just so you know.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, just don't be coming to my house, bitch.
Yeah, Xander's our first. I don't know. We got to figure something to do.
There's so much possibility. Your potential is limitless.
Yours as well.
Absolutely.
Well,
listen,
you're not in this.
That's the problem.
Stay out of this, Xander. You're not.
Thank you to shut your face, Jake. I'll mute you.
This is for smart
people. Thank you to Dr. Katie for her first appearance on Xandermonium. Thank you to Dr. Jake of the Pentland Institute for joining us once again on Xandermonium. We always have a very fun discussion. We should do this again. In fact, we should do it once a month. We should have a debate between the three of us about social and anthropological issues. I would too. I was being serious. I wasn't joking.
Get my Katie with girls out of the way. But I can't do Sundays.
Well, I can't either.
We'll
I
have
can do
to
weekends.
Do it midweek or something. But yeah, I that was really good. I had fun. Jake is away to his masturbation room now, of course.
No, I have to go pee. Is what I have to do.
Right. Okay. Well, listen, thank you so much to you both.
Thank you, guys.
All right, Katie. Love you guys. I have to go.
Bye.
Thank you so much. Take care, both of you.
Bye.
Bye. Okay, guys, so stick around. Call in now for What's Your Beef on 347-884-9061. That's 347-884-9061, so we can talk about What's Your Beef. Thank you once again to Dr. Katie Livesey and Dr. Jake Pentland, direct from the Pentland Institute. Call us now with What's Your Beef. 347-884-9061. Indeed, we are live now for the last portion of the show. Thanks once again to Dr. Katie Livesey and Dr. Jake Pentland from the Pentland Institute. Just to point out to the many people who have messaged me this week, yes, I know Jake is not a doctor, and yes, I know there is no field of medicine called tardo-psychology. Wow, shake my head, some people. Okay, well, the last section of the show, as I said, is going to be What's Your Beef? Call in and tell us who's pissed you off this week. Maybe it's me. Maybe it's Jake. I'm going to tell you about my beefs very soon, but I'm just going to give you the number once more to call in, 347-884-9061. 347-884-9061. That's 347-884-9061. Call in if you dare. Hi to everyone in the chat room. Thanks for sticking with us. As usual, we have less people in there this week with it being a pre-recorded show for the first section. Hi to Terry, hi to Brody, hi to Natalie, hi to all the guests. Give us a call now if you dare. I dare you to call us on 347-884-9061. That's 347-884-9061. So let me tell you about one of my beefs. I was discussing this very early this morning on Twitter with Chris Rivers. Now, apparently, NBC has canceled Smash and several other shows, and I really don't know what is behind the thinking of canceling really popular shows. They've done it with so many things, not just NBC. They canceled the new series of V, which I thought was amazing. Come Fly With Me. Why is all the popular stuff canceled? As well as that, there was Lifetime, who canceled Roseanne's Nuts. I mean, how the hell dare they cancel Roseanne's Nuts? You know, compared to other reality shows like things like Keeping Up with the Kardashians, it was brain surgery. But I think, you know, let's face it, what does it take to convince these companies to actually keep a show on the air that we really like, that we think is really good? I know people write to an email and Twitter to these TV companies, but I really don't think it makes a scrap of difference. I mean, surely our voice should be heard over and above that of people that are Nielsen families. We should get a say in what is on our screen, on what we like and what we get to see. But it ain't happening. So vote with your finger, people. Contact the TV companies and tell them what you don't like and tell them why you think things should stay the way that they are. So I'm going to give that number out one more time. It's 347-884-9061. I'm sure no one's going to call in today, but I just wanted to give people the opportunity to share their beef, their issues, what's bothered them this week, what's on their mind, whatever it is. Call in and share with us for this last little bit of the show. 347-884-9061. Do we have a caller? No, we do not. I guess I've scared everybody away. The chat room went quiet, too. I guess people are pouring their first cocktail of the night. So, last chance to call in with your beef on 347-884-9061. Terry says Jake has a radio voice in the chat room. I think his voice is more suited to porn, but there you go. That's just my opinion. People talking about Nurse Jackie in the chat room too, and how that she stopped taking drugs. The character, that is, not the actress. And also some of the cast have left. What else is going on in the chat room? Apparently some people have been leaking Nurse Jackie episodes on the net the week before they have been aired. Naughty, naughty, naughty. Okay, last chance to call in for What's Your Beef, 347-884-9061. That's 347-884-9061. There's been a lot of talk on Twitter this week about the Jodi Arias trial. I never know how to say her name, and she was found guilty. And there's been a lot of debate about whether she should be sent to the electric chair or given the death penalty or whatever is appropriate in her state. What do you think about that? Call us. Give us your opinion, 347-884-9061. if we don't get some calls, we're going to call it a day. Thank you to my guests today, as I said, Dr. Katie Levacy and Jake Pentland. It was a pleasure sharing with you. I hope we'll be having that trio again for discussion. It really was a hard show to moderate. Keeping them in check is not the easiest thing in the world, but it was great fun. So I don't think we're getting any calls this week, so we're going to call it a day. Thank you so much for joining us. Thanks to everyone in the chat. We will be back with you next week for a live show, same time, same place. Thank you so much to everyone for listening. I'm truly grateful for your continued support, and I love you all. Take care. Bye-bye.
Love, it has been good to me this time around. Things were ever bound to change when it was found. Sugar